Good evening and welcome to the September meeting of the Beavercreek Board of Zoning Appeals. Ms. Gillow, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Althoff?
Here.
Mr. Botla?
Yes.
Mr. Essman is absent. Mr. Porter?
Here.
Mr. Archibald?
Yes, here. Would anybody like to excuse Mr. Essman from the meeting?
Yeah, I motion to approve.
Okay, and a second?
Second, sure.
Okay. All in favor by voice vote? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, so passed. Mr. Essman is excused. Okay, we have an agenda. It's a short agenda, but we have an agenda. Any additions or subtractions, additions to or subtractions from the agenda? Okay, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda as provided, as written.
I motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. By voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the approval of the agenda is passed. All right, minutes from our last meeting, which was actually in June. Hope everybody's had a chance to review them.
Yes.
Any additions, corrections, deletions? Were these?
No.
Okay. Again, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes as written.
I move the motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Any seconds?
Second.
Okay, we have a second, a motion and a second. All in favor by voice vote? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the minutes from the last meeting of June are approved. Okay, we have a public hearing. We actually have two public hearings. The first one is V 21-7, Norma Valerio, 2460 Clubside Drive. Ms. Gillow, you're on.
This is case number V 21-7 on an application filed by Norma Valerio, 2460 Clubside Drive, Beavercreek, Ohio 45431, requesting a variance from Chapter 158.104B2 of the City of Beavercreek zoning code, requesting permission to construct an accessory structure that would encroach into the side yard in an R1A district. The property is located on the northeast corner of Clubside Drive and Eastmore Drive, further described as Book 1, page 14, parcel 66, on the Greene County Property Tax Atlas.
Okay, thank you very much. Applicant, is the applicant here?
I have allergies, I can't talk, so you can talk.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks,
Sir,
everybody, for
Yeah,
hearing
please
us out.
read the card that's up in the upper left-hand corner of your podium there. State your name and address.
my name is Kevin Little. I also live at 2460 Clubside Drive with Norma, and the testimony I'm about to give before the Board of Zoning Appeals of the City of Beavercreek is the whole truth to the best of my knowledge,
Okay, thank you very
Which-
much.
which is the way that the property is set up. The boards or this gentleman told us that the side yard would be the place where it wouldn't be a problem to be, but it would be inaccessible really to us from our fence, and it also would be, in my opinion, more of an eyesore on that side because it would sit out in an open yard by itself on a corner, which I don't think would look good. Where we want to put it is the very back of the driveway, and it would be in the same line of sight as the neighbors, except for theirs is behind the fence, but they have a shed at the same level, and they also are on a corner. So I guess that's all I can say about it. We would like to have it approved, but your wisdom is what we're looking for.
Okay, thank you very much, and we reserve the right to ask you more questions.
Thank you.
Matt?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, board members. We have before you today a variance request to allow a shed in the side yard. And our code allows on corner lots, basically a shed to be located in a side yard that's opposite the front facade. And so this is a unique situation in the fact that if you can see on the screen there that the house actually sits diagonally on the lot. So it doesn't really face any one street wholly. And so we made this basically the decision, since the garage fronts Clubside Drive, we kind of picked that as the front side. And basically what I have in outlined in the backyard is basically where, given that orientation, where the shed would be allowed. And so the applicant basically would like the shed located over here on the other side. Had the house been oriented squarely either other way, it would have made it pretty straightforward. The fact that it's diagonal on the lot, it kind of it makes it a little more challenging. The applicant can legally put the shed over here to the south side, but and this is a front shot of the house. Sorry, this is the area where they'd like to put the shed, and this is the other side where they can legally put the shed. You can see there they've got landscaping over there, and from this side from this road to put the shed kind of here is kind of out of character, out of place than it would be, say, on this side of the house. Let me go back to this. So basically, they could potentially squeeze it in here. But again, given the landscaping, given the overall, I think it would be a little more noticeable. And so staff believes that there is a unique situation here. The zoning code does present a little bit of a hardship given the orientation of their house, and so staff is basically supportive of and would make recommendation for approval of the shed on that location on the north side. Part of the stipulation is they'd still have to meet the setback requirements from the side property line and all that kind of stuff. But, given this location here or given this down here, we would kind of agree with the applicant that north side is probably a better location. This house to the north is also a corner lot, and if you drew a line basically across here, they could actually legally put a shed right here. So the applicant could potentially have the neighbor of the applicant could actually have a shed in the similar location. Because there's a street right here, they could actually legally put a shed right here. So the applicant's shed is actually in a similar location, then the neighbor could legally also put a shed. So, given the uniqueness of the layout of the lot and the situation, again, staff believes that the criteria of the criteria is met and would recommend approval for the variance.
Okay. Mr. Funk, thank you very much. And again, we reserve the right to call you back.
Yep.
Okay. Any other, so we do have some written input. Ms. Gillaw has provided us with the written input from William and Sherry McCauley. And they are in opposition of this. You don't need to read that into the record, do you?
You just did.
Thank you. Okay. Any other public input concerning this application? Okay. Hearing none, I will close the public portion of this hearing and open it up to BZA member discussion. And I will start with Mr. Althoff.
Matt, I've got a question for you. Sure. The note from the McCaulays talks about the property line versus the fence line and the 10 feet and things of that
Sure.
nature. I
Yep.
don't know if that was part of what you all considered in coming up with your recommendation or not.
Yeah, and that's, basically, I guess there's some question as to where the fence is or in relation to the property line. You can kind of see,
Right.
based on the GIS, the aerial there. That's something they'll have to determine through a survey or something, but they will still be required to meet that side yard setback. So they would still be required to be 10 feet from the property line.
I see. So the variance, if we were to grant it, would be to allow them to put it there, but they would still need to be 10 feet from the property line.
Right. They'd
Just
still
not
have-
necessarily the fence line.
Right, yeah, it would have to be from the property line, not necessarily the fence line.
Okay.
Now, if the fence line was obviously on the property line, then that would, but yeah, that's for the applicant, they'd have to make sure that it met the requirements, setback requirements.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Porter?
It says here that the property owner did a survey, and that, do we know what that survey looks like? Are they gonna be able to meet that 10-foot guideline?
Yeah, this aerial here, where the shed is located is at 10 feet from that property line. So, again, I think there's a reasonable amount of space there. The city doesn't have surveyors on staff, and that's something they'll have to work out to make sure that, it does meet our setback, requirements. We've not seen the survey, but, obviously, if there's one that's been done, there should be pins and stuff out there, so.
Okay. That's all the question I had.
Okay, thank you very much. Vice Chair Butler?
I kind of drove by your property and the location. Just having that shed in front of, actually on the side of your entry to the garage door. And it's basically the driveway, and then you have extended kind of wider walkway towards your home, or towards the fence. And that the guideline is that 10 feet from the back of your house, not on the side, not on the front. And as Matt said, they kind of squeezed in. I don't like the word squeezed in. To me, that looks doesn't look normal. It kind of more unsightly, having that right outside exposed, fully exposed. This is something that you have chosen the place because either you couldn't find any other place, or just you want to place it because it's closer to your garage. And honestly speaking, you have the space back there where you have a hobby shed, and then this area right there, you could have the shed there, and it will be very appropriate, and still you have 10 feet from the side fence, and it will not be unsightly. No neighbor or anybody will even kind of look at. You have so much back there, which is kind of good, deck, swimming pool, hobby. I honestly don't think it's very, as an appropriate location for the shed. And by the way, there's an email which some of your neighbor also pointed out the same thing, which I also view it.
There's a limited space in the area you just pointed out, and I don't believe we could fit one in there. It widens out there in front of you can see the fence that goes across. It widens there where we can get, say, 11 or 11 and a half feet from their fence. And that neighbor did put that fence in after they had it, what do you call it? They had it assayed or whatever.
Yeah, it's installed.
So we didn't measure it, but I assume that they put the fence on their property line. That was my understanding when they had it. That's why they had it, when they moved in, they had it, I'm missing the word, but they had it surveyed, yeah. And then they put the fence up. So I'm assuming we have enough room, and we were gonna have the thing painted and to match the house, so it would not stick out like a sore thumb. But you can see right on the other side of their fence, they have a shed right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fence there,
So
yeah.
that's what we were basing it on, basically. Thank you.
Anything else?
That's all I have.
Okay. I have a couple of questions. Matt, let's start with you. So the required side yard setback is 10 feet, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And like you said, if the house was oriented squarely on the lot, then that would truly be the side yard
Yes.
and not.
Yeah, I mean,
not a
had the
front
house actually
yard
been
slash-
turned, yeah. They would actually had more room in their backyard had the house been squarely in the yard too, which
Right.
would have given them more space. I would agree with the applicant. They really don't have enough space in that backyard where the pool is and everything.
Right.
To probably fit a shed. I mean, because by the time you came off 10 feet here, that you would pretty much, I'm not sure you would even have enough width. You'd be up against their other structure. And then again, over here, by the time you came in 10 feet, you know, it would be a pretty tight squeeze. I'm not sure that it would be, you know, I don't think there's enough room in the backyard with the
Sure.
layout that they have that they could actually fit it back there.
Sure, okay.
Um,
So the representation that you have there where the shed is that essentially to scale to the house?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so it's an 8 by 20. And I see that there's an RV currently parked
Yeah, yeah.
there where that's
We're selling it.
sold, okay. All right. Okay, Matt, I think that's all I have for you right now, thank you.
Okay.
But I would like to ask the applicant a couple of questions. If you can step up. So first of all, you are clearly aware that shed has to be 10 feet off of that property line?
Yes,
right?
yes,
Okay,
sir.
great. And also, I noticed in your packet, and I don't know if we have slides for this, but you had some samples of some sheds. This is who's going to install your shed. Are any of these the style that you're going to put up there?
Here, I'll show, I got it.
Well, it's exactly like the one in the big picture, except for there's no windows on either side of the door.
Okay,
I'm the same color as my house.
okay, okay. So it should blend in nicely. Okay, I don't think I have anything else. Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming up and talking with us. Anybody seconds?
Yeah, I have a question. Matt, you said that there's not enough space over there for the shed because of 10 feet. If you could have if you allow variance, like as opposed to 10, could be 8, could be 7, something like that, will they be able to accommodate the shed over there? You know?
You know, given the layout of their backyard with the patio and everything, I'm not sure that it would be, you know, reasonable to try to fit it in back there. Even as far as accessibility, you know, because it's gonna push it extremely close to their house, either to their house or to the other structure they have back there. And then you have you have to be able to get in and out of it, and you know, if you're putting riding lawnmowers or whatever in and out, you've got to be able to. It's got to be functional. Even if you could put it back there, I'm not sure how functional it would be once you got it in there as far as accessibility. So
when you say you're not sure what that means, did they measure it? Did they lay out the size? 20 by 8, 20 by 8 and see how that will fit with some variance?
No, we didn't. We didn't look at that because they were requesting the variant. I mean, they can legally put it right here.
Yeah.
And they felt like that was a less desirable location, even aesthetically, a less desirable location, and that's why given the fact that the house was kind of diagonal on the lot, it was the driveway goes to Clubside. But if this part of the house was actually, say, the garage and came this side, we could easily say this would have been the back and they would have been allowed to have it, just strictly based upon the orientation of the house. So, staff felt like, that was, given how, busy their backyard is with other structures, the pool, the deck, everything that's back there, their patio, that, and honestly, we would agree with the applicant that this probably isn't aesthetically the best location, because then it would actually be sticking out there for everyone to see, so that's why we kind of agreed with the applicant, kind of putting it over here on the side, while not ideal, is probably the best location. And that's why we, recommended approval for the variance request. Because but to answer your question, no, we did not go in the backyard and lay out 8 by 20 and see if we could find a place to fit it back there. We did not do that, no.
Okay, on that, your, what they call a section, variance, the different criteria.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that all those 8 items satisfied, but then at the bottom, staff find the 7 of the 8 approved criteria were met. So how come 7 when you,
Well, that was probably a typo then.
when you all say satisfied?
Oh yeah, sorry, that was a typo.
Okay. Okay, now back to again, over here, I know the fence is here, and, there are ways to accommodate, with your guideline, back of the property, 10 feet. Now they have a fence, and I have not seen anywhere having this kind of squeezed in because, some reason. And personally, it's out of that, formality, out of norm, that location.
Right.
I would really suggest to kind of go back and look in, measurement or something, and see how you cannot accommodate the shed back there, and if there's some variance required inside, that should be also acceptable, because it's all fenced anyway, So this is my views, and then this particular resident in the neighborhood also expressing the same opinion as I'm expressing.
Sure. And again, like I said, given, you can see where the concrete in the back with the patio, and with the pool and the other shed there, the other structure that's back there, we certainly would have the ability to do that. But again, I don't, kind of laying that out. Looking at the shape of that, that red box is to scale, and to try to, I just don't think there's enough green space in there to to reasonably try to fit that in and meet all the setback requirements in the back. But we certainly would have that ability to do that if that's what the board decided.
Okay, so before we go too much further with this, I'd like to hear from the applicant and to tell us some of the things that you've considered with this and why you picked the location where it is, okay? I think this can answer a lot of
Yes, sir.
Vice Chair Butler's questions.
We have 2 older dogs that we've had for a long time. That's their only spot in the backyard where they can take care of business, and it would definitely not be big enough to put the shed and leave them anything left. If we put the shed there, it's not gonna fit in the contour of the concrete that's back there, if you can see what I'm talking about. It's contoured concrete, and if we tried to square it up back there, it's gonna push us too close to the neighbor's fence. So,
And they block that view.
so that's what I wanted to convey. We did think about where we could put it.
Okay.
We're either to the side yard over here, where we've asked for it, or I guess we wouldn't be able to have one, I guess.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think we have to be careful, too, to not get into the business of redesigning things here. Really, our job is to vote on, approve, or disapprove an application. Anybody else have anything for the good of the order? Okay, then I will entertain a motion for V 21-7 for 2460 Clubside Drive.
I have a motion to approve variance.
Okay, we have a motion to approve a variance. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the variance. Ms. Gillo, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Botwa,
Disapprove?
Mr. Porter,
Approve?
Mr. Altoff, Mr. Archibald.
Approved. Okay, so we have approved your variance. And good luck with your project. Okay. The next case that we have up is V 21-8 All-Star Fence at 2875 Southfield Drive.
This is case number V 28-8 on an application filed by All Star Fence, 1700 Bauer Avenue, Kettering, Ohio 45420, requesting a variance from Chapter 158.105C of the City of Beavercreek zoning code, requesting permission for a 4-foot-high fence to remain in the required front yard along Debs Drive. The property is located on the northeast corner of Southfield Drive and Debs Drive, further described as Book 6, page 17, parcel 149 on the Greene County Property Tax Atlas.
Okay, thank you very much. We have the applicant here? Okay,
How you doing?
good. Please come up and read the card up in the upper
Okay, my
left-hand
name's
corner.
Tim. I'm at 1700 Bauer Avenue in
Tim,
Kettering.
what's your
Larson?
I'm sorry?
Larson?
Larson?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
I affirm that the testimony that I am about to give before the Board of Zoning Appeals of the City of Beavercreek is the whole truth to the best of my knowledge.
Okay, tell us why you're here.
So, I did go ahead and put this fence in without a permit, first and foremost.
I was
And
curious about that.
I did do that, so basically what happened was, I don't know if Matt still got this picture of this fence, but I did tear out a fence that was already there. But it was only 3 foot tall.
I don't think we had pictures of the previous fence, did we?
No, we have no picture.
Yeah, there was a 2-rail split rail that was there, but 2-rail split rail is actually 3 foot in height. And we actually installed a 4-foot fence instead of the 3-foot fence. And what the zoning codes are is it has to be 42 inches tall.
Right.
But from right there on that side street, it's a dead-end road, there's nothing there. I mean, there's a hedge bushes that are like 5-6 foot tall, you can't even see the fence.
Right.
So I don't know if, Matt, if you actually got a picture of that over there, you can actually look at it. You probably can't even see the fence from the street because of the bushes. But we are in the right-of-way of the actual, where the fence is not supposed to go, so I'm basically just trying, Matt said that I could probably, knock it down to 42 inches tall, which is the legal height, 3.5 foot, but I'm kind of hoping not to touch it at all,
Okay.
so.
Are you the property owner too?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm actually the contractor,
Oh, contractor.
so.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm sure we'll have questions.
All right.
Mr. Funk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So yeah, this is a variance request to install, or to basically allow a 48-inch fence in the required front yard. So the property is situated on Southfield and Debs Drive. And Debs Drive basically stubs right here at the end of the property owner's property. And then basically we have this large farm here off of North Alpha Bellbrook Road. The farm does have a little bit of they do have a connect to their lane that goes by, that goes back the property line right here. But essentially that Debs Drive is not, it's extremely limited in traffic. So as the applicant stated, he actually did install the fence in the right of way. So the applicant will have to move the fence out of the right of way. But we did look at, would we allow them to maintain the 48-inch fence? I did talk to our city engineer to see what his feelings on it were, and he felt like, given the fact that this is a stub street that basically goes nowhere, it's primarily used by the property owner with the fence, and we don't know when and if this property to the south would ever be developed, and even if it was, if they would even use this connect off Debs Drive into the new subdivision. He didn't feel that it was unreasonable to grant, the 48 inches. The city engineer felt like he was fine with the extra 6 inches on the fence. And so when I ran the criteria, basically, there were 3 things that were not satisfied with the code. One was, is there any condition there that keeps them from being compliant? There really is not. They could easily install a 42-inch fence. Is it the minimum variance possible? No, because again, they could actually install a 42-inch fence. And the other one was, it's for a compelling reason. It's really not. It's more because that's what the applicant and the property owner would like. But given that there were 5 criteria that did satisfy, the conditions, and so based upon that, the majority of the conditions were met. And based upon the fact that, the city engineer was in agreement that we did not foresee any line of sight issue with that fence, like the applicant, stated. I mean, the fence is essentially hidden anyway behind shrubbery and everything else. So, I mean, the shrubs here would create more of a line of sight issue than the actual fence would. So based upon that, they do meet 5 of the 8 criteria, so staff went ahead and made recommendation to approve the variance request. So,
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any written input?
No.
Do we have any input from the homeowner?
No.
Okay. All right. So seeing no other input for the public hearing, I'm going to close that, and we'll open up for board discussion.
Mr. Chair, I do want to make note that I did reach out to the property owner,
Okay?
and the city did receive authorization to allow All Star Fence Tim Larson to act as the applicant in this case.
Okay, thank you. Good clarification. Let's start with Mr. Porter, please.
I've got no questions right now.
Okay? Mr. Althoff?
Just a clarification, I suppose, probably for you, Matt. So, one of the things in the packet talks about a variance regarding the fence placement as well as height. What variance are we actually being asked to review?
It's for the height of the fence. Yeah, the applicant actually installed the fence in the right of way, so that is going to have to be relocated out of the right of way.
So we're not being asked to discuss the placement.
We're not asking
only
about the
height.
placements, purely the height. Yeah, because the city's certainly does not want the fence to be located on city property. So it's going to have to be, unfortunately for the applicant, it would have to be located outside the right of way. So this is purely for the height of the fence.
Okay, that's
So how
all.
far do I have to move it back?
To basically to where that front property line is. So it'd have to be, it's probably roughly 12 feet from the back of curb.
You know where it's at right now?
I think you're about 6, at least on the back, on this back end back here.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's, there's no variance for that. I mean, where the city does not want the fence, because we can't have those kind of obstructions located in the right-of-way. But we would certainly we would give concession to allow it moved back and give concession to the, 6 inches for sure.
Do you have additional pictures you can show us where the right-of-way is and how far into the right-of-way it is? Because that picture doesn't show it.
No.
I thought there was a picture that showed with X's where the fence is.
Yeah.
There is one in the packet.
Yeah, there might be one in the packet.
It's the very last page.
Yeah. So, in your packet where it shows the X's, the fence is actually probably about half that distance to the road. It kind of angles, I think. You might be able to speak to that more clearly, Tim. I think it kind of angles to the road as it goes back because of the hedge. These hedges. So I think as it goes back, it kind of gets a little bit closer to the road. I think it's offset probably a little bit farther back up by the driveway than it is back by the farm lane in the back. So, I don't know, you might be able to speak.
Right. Yeah, I don't know the measurement from the street to the actual fence.
Yeah.
Like I said, I mean, I did tear out a fence when we did install that. We basically put it right back where it was. But I know these rules if I'd have pulled the permit on that.
Yeah, that's right.
So I would know I wouldn't be able to place it there, right?
Exactly.
So, we'll give you the benefit of the doubt. The only thing is that I'm saying is that, I mean, look at those bushes there. I mean, if there's rules in the city that you can't have bushes on the street, I mean, you guys should be calling them and telling them to tear down the bushes. I'd rather look at the fence than that mess. You know what I mean? I just don't see, and with it being a dead-end street, I just don't see with it.
We want your input, but you have to come up to the microphone to talk.
Okay.
Right? Or if, just hang on, because I really want to hear from you.
Okay.
And I'm going to hijack Mr. Altoff's question.
You already answered my question. so I'm
Okay.
good. Yeah.
All right. So can you put the plot back up?
Sure.
So we have that red line in our packet here.
Uh-huh.
Right? Is that red line the property line?
Yes, it is.
And the setback is from the property line, the required setback is from
They
the
can
property
be
line?
on the red line.
It can be on the red
Yep.
line?
Yep.
Okay.
So they're
So-
allowed to go as close as the front property line with their fence.
So help me understand, if that's the property line, why is it also the right-of-way?
Because your front property line is the divider between the private property and the city road right of way. So in a normal, say like if you look at the line that's a little bit wider off here, you can, basically that just shows the images off a little bit. But in this area between the street and the yellow line up there, in a neighborhood that would have sidewalk, you'd have a tree, you'd have your tree lawn, say a 5-foot tree lawn, maybe a 4-foot sidewalk, and then you'd have the front property line. And so, in this situation, in this neighborhood, there is no sidewalk, and so therefore, there's the extra green space kind of between the front property line and and the edge of the roadway.
Sure.
So normally, like I said, that there would have been in our new subdivisions, that back edge of the sidewalk would be pretty much where that front property line was.
Sure. Well, Beavercreek hasn't started believing in sidewalks until like the last 5 years, so. But irrespective, right? I mean, is the property line in the right-of-way along Deb's Drive?
No, the
So the
property line
fence is
is the
on the-
dividing line between the right-of-way and private property.
Okay, so the fence is currently not in the right-of-way, it's on the property
No, the
line.
fence is currently in the right-of-way. It's in between the red line on your packet. The fence is actually between the red line and the edge of pavement.
Yeah,
So
that's not what it shows here.
Well, no, that's because this is what he applied for, not where the fence is actually located. So, this is, if you're looking at this is what the applicant submitted.
But
Yes.
again, we're not being asked to do a variance on location.
Right.
No, because
Only
the
at night.
city's not gonna allow the fence to be located in the right-of-way. So that it's purely on the height of the fence.
Right.
So regardless, the applicant's gonna have to move the fence back to the front property line. So we're here to determine whether or not we're gonna allow him to keep the 48-inch fence or lower it to 42 inches.
Sure.
You know, staff's opinion is, you know, given the fact that it's a stub street, you know, we would agree with the applicant that the fence is virtually hidden at this point. You know, but, you know, and it's not, you know, and even the city engineer agreed that it probably wouldn't be a line of sight issue, you know, for even people coming in and out of the farm. The property owner's driveway is the only one that's there. So he's really the only one that's primarily using that, except for what little bit of farm traffic would come out of the farm. So, so the staff, you know, we felt like, you know, the 6 inches, you know, wasn't unreasonable and did meet the majority of the criteria.
Okay, so here's my quandary, right? I think that this is based on the reaction of Mr. Larson. I think that this is new information that he wasn't considering, because in his original presentation, he was saying we would approve leaving it where it is, as it is, right? And what you're telling me is, even if we approve this variance, he still has to move the fence.
Yeah, it does.
That's new information. I think that's new information for him. That said, that also might have an impact on the homeowner, right? So I'm not sure that this package is ready for us to make a decision on. And the only reason I say that is because I think that there's potentially another variance to come, right? Or maybe the whole package has a variance to come with it, right? Two variances, one into the right-of-way, but we don't know, because we don't really see where the fence is in relationship to the right-of-way, right? Which we really need to see that too. But even if we approve the height variance, he still has to move the fence. And if he's gonna move the fence, then why not just make it 42 feet, 42 inches? So, I think, Dan Archibald's own personal opinion, I think that this is not ready for us to vote on.
Okay.
But having said that, I need somebody to move to table this, or
Well,
let's have more discussion.
Just
Mr. Botliff?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Just so you, I mean, the city will not, I can tell you, the city is not going to allow the fence to be located in the right of way.
Right, well, that was information that wasn't in this packet.
Right.
Right, so we needed to know that. It was a great question by Mr. Althoff, and again, I think that let's table this, work together with each other, and figure out what the plan is going forward, and if there's a variance required. I mean, if he's got to move the fence, he's going to put a 42-inch fence in, he doesn't need a variance, right?
Right.
So, but I don't want to close out discussion yet. Mr. Butler, you.
Okay, I got a question. I drove by, I have no problem with the fence height kind of thing. And this right away, didn't know anything about it. And now, where's the user, where's the owner? Owner is not here, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Why-
he's representing the
Yes,
Yeah.
I installed a fence, so I'm here
Okay.
for that.
They gave
So-
him permission to.
So,
Right.
so does the owner know that the fence has to be moved
Yes.
in?
Yes,
Does he know?
yes, back to the
And
property
you
line.
you knew it?
Did I know it?
Yeah.
I
Did you know that your fence is on the right of way?
Well, like I said, I did not pull the permit before we installed the fence. There was actually a fence there that we ripped out and put back in the same spot as where we put the fence now. The only difference is the fence was only 3 foot tall. To where we come back in, it's 50% open too, but it's 4 foot tall.
Well, I want to say, before you came over here, did you know?
Yes, me and Matt discussed it. Matt
That
did
there
tell
was
me that
issue
he'd be able
there?
to make it happen possibly to where we could
Move the,
leave the height,
yes.
but move the fence back to 6 feet. I haven't gone out there and measured it to actually give you a measurement from what it is
Yeah.
from the curb back to the fence. So yeah, I have discussed it and, about taking it down to the 42 inches tall.
So my take is that if the height of the fence is concerned, that personally I have no problem whatsoever.
Uh-huh.
And other part which the city has to deal with it.
Right.
And this, issue could be approved subject to, city, uh, uh, city having you move the fence to clear the right of way.
To clear the right of
That-
way, yeah.
That means that we don't have to bring you back again.
Right, right. But I mean, the fence is gonna be rotted
Yeah,
before.
yeah,
I
that's
just
what I'm
feel, I mean, if I can't pull a variance
Yeah,
on the right of way, but by the time they build something there, the fence is wood, it's gonna be rotted out before they even build anything there. But, I mean, if Matt says it can't be allowed and the city won't approve it, then we'll just move it back to 6 feet or whatever the 12 feet is, and we'll just move on with it.
So what do you
So
want,
basically-
what do you want to have happen here today?
I don't wanna touch it.
Well, that's not gonna happen.
I don't
It's gonna
wanna
have-
touch the fence.
It's gonna have to be touched.
Yeah, so then we're gonna go out there, I'm gonna put it on my schedule, and we're gonna go out there and we're gonna move it back the 12 feet from the curb on both sides of the street and make it, uniform with the street where it's 12 feet back.
Okay.
And just, it's not a whole lot there. I think it's only like 40 feet that's going down through that street,
But you
so,
would still prefer not to alter the fence other than moving it?
yeah. Yeah. I mean, the 4 foot's fine.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's no sense of, if it's going to be moved back. Basically, what Matt's trying to, which is a help for me, that's the side yard, excuse me, and everything from the house back that way has to be 42 inches tall. So he's saving me work by me just scooting it back. If not, then I have to pull out the whole front, the whole side, and then however many feet it's going to be from that corner
Got it.
back to the back of the house.
All right.
So he's saving me a lot of work as it is by just making it move back 6 feet, which is, I appreciate that.
Okay.
So
All right.
it is a big deal by at least you guys, if you guys can approve the 4 foot in height for me, it's gonna save me work, is basically what he's saying.
Okay. All right, so I misunderstood. Like I said, when I was listening to your presentation,
right.
The fence has got to be touched.
The fence has to be touched, and that's fine.
Your
I'm fine
desire
with
is not
that.
going to happen here.
But what he's trying to get to approve is me just to, because
Got
if
it.
not, like I said, that's considered the
Okay.
front yard, what have you.
Okay.
So,
Yes, Mr. Funk.
Just a point of clarification, yeah. And the right of way was not really in discussion as far as the packet because, my understanding, we kind of had a discussion that it would need to be out of the right of way. So we were looking at purely from a height standpoint on private property. And it would be minimally impactful, like Tim said, to make it 42 inches, he's going to have to alter, the fence that ties into it. So again, we're going to, we could concede the 6 inches and just move it back. The fence stays consistent around the yard. And because it's not going to be a line of sight issue, it's a dead end road. And so that's basically why we were recommending approval.
Okay. I think it's appropriate for us to add a condition onto this request if it's approved, right? And that condition being that it must comply with the setback rules,
Yes,
right?
that's fine.
And be out of the right of way.
Correct.
Okay, good discussion. Mr. Butler, you got more?
No, no.
Anybody? Seconds?
I was just gonna say, I think it made sense to ask the question about whether we were ready to move forward.
Right.
I think that's been resolved.
Yes, absolutely. I agree.
I got one other question.
Go ahead.
You said that was an existing fence that you tore out, right? Do we have any type of variance or anything that was applied to that, or or any type of permit that showed that it was approved?
No,
The previous fence, was it ever approved, do we know?
we didn't go back and look. Basically, when you replace a fence, you have to get a permit, and the new fence has to be brought into compliance with our code. So it really doesn't matter where the old fence was. The new fence has to be a compliant fence. So even if the old fence did, encroach, which I don't know if it did or not, but even if it did encroach into the road right away, it's irrelevant to the new fence that's going in.
Okay.
Good question. All right. Any other discussion for the good of the order? Okay, hearing none. I will entertain a motion for V21-8.
I move the motion to approve the height of the fence, but other issues are, as far as height is concerned, if that's the only issue we have, then we will, I move the motion to approve that height.
Okay, with the condition that it must comply
Yeah,
with the
yeah,
setback
yeah,
rules.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah, of course.
Or how do we word that? Fence must comply with the
All other applicable.
All applicable,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess so, yeah.
The
Applicable.
setback
fence
rules
cannot be
and.
located within
and
the public
right-of-way.
right-of-way.
Right, perfect. Okay. All right, we have a motion on the floor for approval with a condition. Any seconds?
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Gillo, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Porter?
Approve?
Mr. Altoff? Mr. Botla?
Approve.
Mr. Archibald?
Approved. Okay, Mr. Larson, you have your approval. Go move your 48-inch fence.
It is what it is. Thank you, guys. Sorry to waste your time.
No, it wasn't a waste of time at all. It was a good discussion.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Any other items to discuss on the agenda? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn this fine meeting.
I move the motion to
We have a motion, and a second by voice vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned.